We say thousands and thousands of words a day, but what if every single one was like a tiny fossil, a clue to a hidden history? Well, today we're going to dig into that story, and it all starts with a really simple question about a word you've definitely used.
Okay, so let's start with this little puzzle, because it's going to take us to some really surprising places. I mean, think about it. We already have a word for the number 12. It's 12. So why on earth do we have this other word, dozen, for the exact same amount?
Well, the answer is pretty wild. It turns out our language has two completely different histories for the same number. These two words arrived on the shores of England more than 1,000 years apart from each other.
So on one hand, you've got dozen. This word is basically a French import. It was brought over to England after the Norman conquest back in 1066. It was part of the language of, government and business, which is why a lot of our words for measurement, like pint, gallon, and ounce, also have French roots.
And when you put them side by side, you can really see these two completely different paths. On one side, you have dozen, coming from Latin through French, and it just means a group of 12. But on the other side, we have 12. And honestly, 12 has a much older, and I think, a way cooler story.
So unlike dozen, 12 is a native Germanic word. It's been part of English for over 2,000 years, and it literally means two left over, as in after you've counted to 10. Just like 11 means one left over. It's a fossil from a super ancient way of counting.
Okay, so this whole dozen versus 12 thing, it's not just a fun little piece of trivia. It actually cracks open a window into the deep, deep history of language itself. It shows us how different words can be like distant cousins, all part of one giant family tree.
Think of it like this. English and Latin, they're both part of this huge, sprawling language family called Indo-European. So because they share a common ancestor way, way back, their most basic words, like numbers, are often related. They're kind of like long-lost cousins who took very different paths but still carry some of the same family DNA.
And you can totally see that family resemblance right here. Look at English and Latin. Two and duo, three and tres. It's pretty clear, right? But then you look at Arabic, wahid, ithnan, thalatha. There's no resemblance at all because it comes from a completely different linguistic tree, the Semitic family. And here's the kicker, which I think is so cool. We use number symbols, the actual digits 1, 2, and 3 that were developed in India and then came to us through the Arab world, but the words we speak for those numbers have a completely different origin. It's a perfect example of a mashup of global history right there in our numbers.
Now, all this stuff might sound like ancient history, but get this, the exact same forces that shaped our language thousands of years ago are still at work today. They're changing the way we speak right under our noses. We can literally trace the evolution of a word like for over thousands of years. The ancient word for it started with a K sound, a qua sound, but over time, that systematically softened into an F sound. And this wasn't an accident. It was part of a predictable chain reaction known as Grimm's law that changed the entire sound of the language.
And you might be thinking, okay, that was thousands of years ago. But the same kind of systematic sound weakening that turned the Latin P in pater into the F in father is happening right now in American English. When a lot of us say butter and it sounds like butter, we're literally part of that exact same kind of linguistic evolution.
And I bet you hear this stuff all the time, right? Maybe you even say it, saying internet instead of internet or asked instead of asked. These aren't mistakes. This is the engine of language evolution, in real time, just making speech a little bit smoother and more efficient.
Okay, so when we hear all this internet, ass, it's easy to think, oh man, the language is going downhill. People are getting lazy. It's a really common fear, one that pretty much every generation has about the next. But is it actually true?
Here's the thing linguists will tell you. Every single generation has worried that the next one is ruining the language. The Romans complained about sloppy Latin. Grammarians in the 18th century absolutely hated contractions. And yet, here we are, communicating perfectly fine. Language doesn't decay, it optimizes.
And this is so important. We have to understand that not all errors are the same. Mispronouncing a word you've only ever read, like saying epitome, that signals one thing. But saying internet, well, that signals something completely different. It's a feature of a shared dialect. It's a marker of identity. And that right there brings us to maybe the biggest idea in all of this. Our reaction to how people speak is almost never about the language itself. It's about identity, community, and social judgment.
You know that feeling, right? That fingernails on a chalkboard feeling when you hear a word pronounced in a way you think is wrong?
That's not about a failure to understand the meaning. That's your brain's social alarm bell going off, categorizing people into people like me and people not like me.
This single question says it all. It was asked to an African-American woman who had worked really hard to adopt a more standard American dialect. And it reveals everything, because the issue clearly wasn't about being correct or clear. It was about something much, much deeper.
I mean, think about what's happening there. Her friends weren't critiquing her grammar. They were reacting to what they saw as her social alignment. In their ears, her new pronunciation was a badge of a different identity. To them, her shift in speech felt like a rejection of their shared community. And it just proves that a so-called prestige accent isn't linguistically better, it's just the one that happens to be associated with social power.
So here's the challenge for all of us. The next time you hear a pronunciation that grates on you, whether it's axe for ask or nuclear for nuclear, just stop for a second and ask yourself, is it really the sound, or is it the social story I've attached to that sound? The answer might tell you less about them and a whole lot more about you.
Recently, there was a LinkedIn post asking why we say half dozen when we can simply say 6. This inspired me to have a discussion with Copilot AI about this question and other related linguistic questions I had. It occurred to me that this can be a good illustration showing how AI can be used to delve deeper into a topic by way of a virtual conversation. You can download my entire conversation as a PDF at renoweb.net. I also decided this could be a good way to show how AI can be used to fashion a summary and then turn that summary into a useful video. Though this is relatively easy to do, I know that not everyone wants to take the time to do it on their own, so we're always here to help. If you need help with video production, virtual or otherwise, visit renoweb.net to learn more.